Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Aligning to Truth. My name is Dandelion Love, and today I wanted to talk about the story that we tell ourselves. And I had an experience this morning that led me to thinking about sharing this, and it's definitely been a massive part of my life. And we do it in the smallest way, and I feel like it has the biggest impact and we don't even realize it. And that is when we share stories, when we go back into the past and we retell something and we don't realize the impact that that has on our nervous system, especially if it's something traumatic, especially if it's something where we hold still the emotion in our body. And we start to express that because we're wanting to share something for whatever reason. It feels good to share a story if you're in a safe place. This is where I've been, this is what happened to me, etc., etc. However, when we start to get into the details, it starts to re-affect our body as if we are experiencing it. And what a lot of people don't realize is the past and the future and the present are actually in alignment. They're happening all right now in this one moment of now. And when you start to share a story and you start to engage in details, you might notice that your body starts to feel a certain way, or a feeling will come back. And it's as if you're right there. And in actual fact, there is truth in that. So what do we do? What do we do instead of reliving the story? Well, the first step I've learned is that we need to let go of the story. We need to let go of how we got to where we are. And that means letting go of everything that associates with the story, which is also a feel-good, which seems strange, right? Because in a way, we're sharing something that's traumatic, that's happened to us, and it doesn't feel good. However, there's something that's happening in the background. There's a payoff that the mind gets, that the nervous system gets, that becomes a bit of a, I guess in a way, a drug. It's something that we start to learn that we get attention for. And if you've gone most of your life not feeling seen or heard, then having something that puts a focus on you, gets attention on you, it's something that we lean into and we walk towards without really even knowing it. And then we're walking around in victim consciousness, which most of us at some point are experiencing and expressing from. So what do we do instead of sharing the story, instead of sharing the detail? If something's coming up, it's a really good way to understand that perhaps your consciousness or something reflecting back to you is asking you to address this, which means not necessarily talking about it, but feeling it. This can be difficult, especially if you're a person who is afraid of going into that because you're afraid that you're not going to be able to handle what you feel, and you're afraid of whatever the mind's telling you you're afraid of. But in my experience, every time that something's come up, either in a dream, in conversation, it's been reflected to me in my external world, it's an opportunity to go, and look into it a little bit deeper and see what's sitting there and be honest with yourself and try and go into a place where you separate from the story and you actually look at it from more of a place of a friend. So if a friend was coming to me and explaining to me something, I'm not part of that story. I'm not experiencing directly what that person is experiencing in their body or has experienced. And it gives me the opportunity to come at it from a non-attached place. Then we have space, and we have space not to get caught up in the story and the emotion and the victim consciousness, and we get to put our focus on what we actually need to feel, what we need to sit with, what we need to acknowledge and accept, and then allow it to move through. And then when we do that, it will actually shift very quickly. And it's not as hard as we think, like, yes, you may cry, yes, you may feel a wave of emotion, but it's often very quick and it moves very if there's no resistance, it will just move. Your body may move, you may feel vibration, you may just feel lighter. But it is the story that we tell ourselves and others, the storyteller, that really holds us to where we are, where we've been in the past, rather than allowing us to just be here in the moment as we are without the story. This is something that I look at daily. Even in the smallest moments, we can retell a story of labeling ourselves something, or I am this. And really, the more I learn, the more I understand that we're nothing that we think we are. So if you've listened this far, well done. And take this opportunity to maybe ask yourself, ask your consciousness, ask your soul, whatever you want to call it, to show you something that you need to release, and then just sit with it. Much love, beautiful people. Bye.